Trucker Dump for May 26, 2011, episode 68. This is a life. We all have to be somewhere. This is my life. A guest post by McHarry.
Welcome to Trucker Dump, where you'll get one driver's insights and sometimes humorous views of truck driving and the trucking industry, and pretty much anything else he feels like dumping on you. This podcast is brought to you by AboutTruckDriving.com, resources to help you understand the world of truck driving through the use of stories and a pathetic attempt at humor.
Howdy kiddos, Todd McCann here. Not going to do any setup today because it's all in the meat of the podcast. If you missed the title, hang on, I'll get it again here in a minute. Check me out, I'm living on the edge, freestyling it. Okay, here we go. Hey, Todd here. I know you were expecting me, but I won't be the one entertaining you today. Let me explain. You and I both know I'm a blabbermouth, but sometimes I just don't know what to say about a particular subject. I had one of those cases back in July of 2010 with a blog post called Riding Along with a Trucker. There'll be links to that one in the show notes. That post was written due to a question I got from Lucinda, a woman who was planning on riding along with her trucker husband, but only as a passenger. She was asking for advice. Well, I've never done that, and neither had the evil overlord, so I enlisted the help of a couple of Twitter friends, Patty, a.k.a. Love18Wheels, and CB Snow Angel, who apparently has given up on Twitter. There'll be a link to Patty's Twitter page in the show notes. They both gave some sound advice, but I knew I'd want more eventually. That's how we arrived today at my first guest post. I don't plan on doing this a lot, but I thought I knew someone who could both answer the question better than I could and reach my required level on the snarkometer. Recently, I decided to hit up McHarry, a.k.a. the infamous Ray Sunshine 77 on Twitter. She's a first-class smart aleck on there, and she always cracks me up with her sarcastic sense of humor. I'm also beginning to wonder if she's a long-lost sister of the evil overlord. After much manipulation, I lied and told her I liked her. She finally acquiesced. I think you'll be glad she did. She did a bang-up job on what she admitted was her first writing assignment since high school. I'll let her introduce herself. That's her standing next to her devastatingly handsome husband. Love that macho mustache. Hey, wait a second. You podcast listeners are going to have to go to the website to get that joke. So here we go. This is a life. We all have to be somewhere. This is my life. By McHarry. And for the record, I asked Jean if she wanted to record this herself, but she wussed out. So instead, you get me. Yay, more of me. Don't call me a seat cover. Don't assume I'm a lot lizard. Don't disrespect me because you don't want women taking away a man's job. Don't accuse me of not having knowledge of this industry because I ride. Don't ask me to run away with you because you have a bigger, badder truck. And for the love of all that is chrome, don't ask me to move the stupid truck. I've driven, I've dispatched, I've loaded and unloaded trailers, and I've run a truck stop. DOT assumes I'm a driver and will sometimes ask for my logbook. I have to produce paperwork to show that I'm allowed to be here, that I won't do anything that would be considered work, and I pay for this privilege. I love my life. I love being out here on the road. I enjoy every aspect of being a truck driver, except I don't drive the truck, and let's make this clear, I don't want to drive the truck, and no one is going to make me. My husband has diesel running through his veins. He says it's all he's ever wanted to do. That's a small lie. He also wanted to be a train engineer or a boat captain. And I believe it's all he'll ever do. I enjoy being out here. I love going new places, meeting new people, and just being a little bit of a gypsy. Waking up someplace new and not knowing where I'm going to be tomorrow is a thrill that I truly appreciate. I'm a passenger. That's all I want to be. I call myself a rolling assistant because I do more than just sit here and look pretty. I spend about a quarter of my time playing navigator. Between maps, both truck and city versions, a functional GPS, the company's routing, the local directions, and my notes on the local directions, I can tell you where we've been, where we're at, where we need to be going, and just how long it should take to do it all. This knowledge also helps me with keeping an eye on the weather. Twitter really has been my best friend in this endeavor. Those up-to-the-minute updates that tell me it's raining in Texas helped a whole lot when we're dealing with blizzards in Buffalo. I keep track of loads and payroll, keep up on all relevant news, and generally just keep him company. I cook. That sounds so simple when you type it. Is there any way to make it simple in the truck? We don't have a refrigerator, so storage of perishables must be done in a cramped cooler that also holds our water. Canned goods have one cabinet available to them, and it can't be opened without something landing on a foot or head. I carry a crock pot, a lunchbox. It's shaped like those old lunchbox your dad took to work and functions kind of like a crock pot, and an electric skillet. One of these days when I find room, I want a rice cooker, but at this point, something else has to move for it to have a home. We try to eat out of the truck for 18 out of 21 meals. Sometimes we accomplish this. Most weeks it's closer to 14 out of 21. Sometimes we just need out of the truck. It's not like eating dinner at the house. Imagine you had to eat every meal with your spouse in the bathroom. Just throw a mattress over the tub and put the lid down on the toilet. At some point, you would need a break. Restaurants have so much more space, and other people help carry on conversations. These two luxuries can make a really long day seem like a vacation. Because when there are just the two of you, there's only so much to be said, and quite frankly, if he asks me one more time, "What you doing?" I might hit him with a tire thumper. I clean. That's another one of those things that sounds so simple, but is never as simple as you want it to be. Mirrors need to be clean. Glass on both the inside and outside. Dusting. I hate dusting a truck. The stuff just reappears the moment you knock it off. To sweep and mop, something I try to do every other day, requires half the truck to be picked up and put somewhere else while I accomplish such an easy task. The cooler, loaded down with ice, half a case of water, and whatever perishables have been purchased for the week, the crock pot, the lunchbox oven, the trash can, 4 pairs of boots, 3 pairs of tennis shoes, and the rugs. They must go somewhere. I just wish I knew where. The bed is already loaded down with luggage, a shower bag, my purse, laundry baskets, and a dozen bags of other stuff that one of these days will eventually find a home. Once the floors are all pretty, it all has to be put back, at least until bedtime. Then everything has to be moved back up front so we can sleep. My goal is to try to make his load a little lighter, especially since I increased the weight of the truck. I have to bring a lot of stuff. Didn't you see all the stuff I just mentioned? I'd like to have so much more, but there will never be room, and I probably wouldn't use it if I'd finally got it in here. My resolution each year is to try that whole minimalistic lifestyle. One of these years, it's going to happen. Trust me. I spend my day trolling for news articles to read to him. I download podcasts that we both enjoy to kill the hours of driving. There's only so much music and news you can listen to in an 11-hour day. Even less now, since every hour the whole thing seems to repeat. We joke, we tease, we argue, we repeat. I spend a huge chunk of my day online. I harass people I've never met, and some I never will, on Twitter. I stalk people I do know on Facebook. I farm and tame the frontier. I troll truck driving and cooking forums. He used to complain that I spent most of my day on the computer and phone. He'd ask what I could possibly be doing that would waste 7 hours a day. Why wasn't I looking at the beautiful scenery and enjoying just relaxing while he drove? Why wasn't I paying more attention to what was going on around us? That's what he does. Why couldn't I do that? I tried to explain. From my side, with no vehicle to control, just looking at scenery that I've seen 100 times isn't entertaining. It's like staring at a wall. Now when we go home, I drive. That's 8 to 12 hours, depending on who we're going to visit. He whines the whole time that he's bored. I tell him to relax and enjoy the scenery. Pay more attention to what's going on around us. That's how I get new toys. I'd like to say we're unique, but that wouldn't be true. I know plenty of couples out here that are in the same boat we are. One drives and one rides. Anybody that has met him will ask how I spend 24/7 with him. I'm heavily medicated. All kidding aside, we love each other and we take care of each other and we are codependent on each other. We've spent time apart. I didn't like it. He didn't like it. I respect couples that team. I respect women that stay at home while their husband is out here on the road. I've been there, done that, and I don't plan on going back.
Hey, yo, bud, where do you want this load of feedback?
Yay! Y'all came through for me on the comments on the podcast The Road to Smutville. Not that that surprises me. I figured this one would get some reaction. So let's get on with it. Pat, that's Love18Wheels, on Twitter, says, yeah, I seen a lot of this on the road when we were out there, and yes, it seems to be growing, so that means more truckers are buying into it. But is it any wonder? Look at the risque crap they're putting on TV and cable, and in the music our young people are listening to. It says a lot about the state of our country and what we think is okay anymore. I can remember when looking at Elvis's swiveling hips was banned. Boy, we've come a long way since then. And I'm afraid according to what I see happening, it'll only grow much worse. I guess Satan is celebrating, though. Well, Pat, I too find it quite disturbing. I was really young when Elvis was shaking his stuff, but I remember how risque everyone said Madonna was when I was in high school. She looks tame now compared to all the hip-hop videos and dirty dancing that goes along with it. Take away the clothes, they're having sex on TV. Quite disturbed by some of the lyrics I hear my nephews singing too. Sadly, you're right. It's only going to get worse. Heidi says, wow, I just hate seeing those places. It actually makes my gut hurt that they exist, and especially when I see cars in the parking lot any time of day. I'm sorry that it's such a forced issue in your industry, but you've given me something else to pray about. Good post, Todd. Thanks for your candor. Well, Heidi, thanks for the comment and the prayers. I'll take all of them I can get. And anybody else who wants to pray for us truckers, I'm sure we'll be willing to take it. Casey really opened up in this one, and I appreciate it. She says, I hate driving down the road and seeing signs for gentlemen's clubs. Gentlemen's is in quotes. I don't see many around where I live, but last week when we drove down I-75 here in Florida, I must have seen 30. It's gross. It's also sad. I mean, what would drive a woman to expose herself like that? Is she that desperate? Very sad. I can honestly say I fully trust Chris not to go to one of those places while out on the road. I struggle with knowing he'd be approached by desperate women when he stopped at truck stops. I can remember bawling my eyes out because I thought he would cheat on me. The thought of being away from my husband for the first time, and especially for an extended period of time, was nerve-wracking. We sat down before he left for the very first time, and he gave me his word nothing would ever happen. Some people think I may be naive, but I know my husband, and I know he would not do something that could potentially ruin our family. Deep down, I knew he'd never do that. Just poor self-esteem on my end. That, and hearing on trucking boards about how people's lives have been ruined because of it. Well, now I've just gone on far too long about nothing important. Anyway, all I really wanted to say was, I hate those places. Well, Casey, I don't think what you're carrying on about is nothing important. I'd be willing to bet that a lot of truckers' wives go through the same emotions as you did. Many of them still probably do. I really appreciate your honesty here. I'm glad you can trust your man. The evil overlord trusts me not to stop at those places too, but it doesn't keep her from asking me about it every now and then. Her attitude is trust, but don't be naive. It never hurts to ask every once in a while. And if she asks, I can never get away with a lie with her. She'd know immediately. But I don't consider it jealousy or nagging when she asks me. I consider it concern, as long as it isn't all that often. As for the temptation for lot lizards, I wouldn't worry about that too much. Most of them are nasty to the 10th power, so there's not much to be tempted by. It takes a real scuzzbag to pay for one of these skanks, and I somehow doubt you married a scuzzbag. Old friend says, in my job, we take large groups of students in the 6th to 12th grade on trips. It's just heartbreaking to hear the kids counting the adult video stores on I-44. I almost always have to address the question, why are they called video stores? It took guts to address this subject. Kudos to you. Well, Andrea, thanks. Yes, our home state is chock full of this smut. I can assure you I-70 is just as bad as I-44. And kudos to you for addressing the subject with your students. That takes some cojones. And Lisa Nowak's going to wrap it up for us. She says, the economy isn't the only thing porn stimulates. Okay, sorry you sort of set yourself up for that one. Well, Lisa, yes, I realize I wrote that line in my post. I took the high road, but thank you for driving through the valley. She goes on to say, I guess in a free market, this is the kind of thing you have to expect. Personally, I don't need to have it in my face all the time. But then where I drive, there isn't too much of it, so maybe it's not really an issue for me. I remember in the early 90s driving through Georgia and seeing those really ugly black billboards with green and orange neon. I think mostly they were advertising fireworks, but as you can see, it wasn't the product that stuck in my head, but the ugliness of the billboards. I think the porn thing would strike me the same way. Tacky. I guess if someone wants to look at porn, I figure that's their business, but I'm not sure I want to have to see reminders of it everywhere any more than I want to see reminders of cigarettes. I guess if they can outlaw advertising smokes on TV, they can do the same with porn billboards. My point is that I'm not sure how to feel about it. I'd rather not look at that stuff, and I feel bad for folks who have to have it in their face all the time, but I'm not sure where to draw the line as far as free speech and advertising goes. Not that I'm any big fan of advertising. I think it's way overdone and a form of pollution in its own right. Okay, I'm just rambling now. I agree, though, that for people who are tempted and trying to stay away from such things, those billboards are a bad deal, just like billboards about gambling would be to a gambling addict, or billboards about booze would be to an alcoholic. I don't think we should expect society to protect us from our temptations, but I also think there's a point where it's just so in your face that it exceeds the limits of good taste. Well, Lisa, I understand your point about freedom of advertising. I don't like these billboards much, but I can live with them. The thing that really bugs me is that if I can see it, so can my young nephews. Now, I was a kid once. I remember when I was 12 or 13 years old, my friend Jerry and I found a Playboy in the alley behind the public library. Some of those images got burned into my brain. I can't be the only kid that this has happened to. I wonder what's happening in kids' minds nowadays when they see these billboards. I was in a tiny truck stop the other day and noticed that the magazine rack extended out into the restaurant. The whole top shelf was smut. They did have those plastic covers on them, but still, what's going to go through a kid's mind when he's sitting there eating a cheeseburger? And that brings me to sum it up. I'm like you. I personally think that the world would be a better place without pornography, yet I understand that this is America. If a person wants to drown themselves in smut, it's their prerogative. Just please don't put it in my face. As always, Lisa, that was a great comment. Thanks for leaving it. And again, thanks to everyone who left a comment and everyone who's ever left a comment. I really dig getting them. It makes my day. It makes me happy. So if you want to make me happy, why don't you leave a comment of your own or write me an email. Here's how to do it. Well done, Gene, and thanks again. Well, you can always send comments to me at the usual places and I'll pass them along to her. Leave your comments on the blog at abouttruckdriving.com or email me at truckerdump@gmail.com. Or if you'd rather, you can contact Jean directly at janedean77@yahoo.com or on Twitter, where she's the infamous @RaySunshine77. Seriously fun follow, people. I've put both her Twitter and Facebook links in the show notes. I also hear she likes stalkers. Of course, I'm Todd McCann on Twitter. That's 2 D's, 2 C's, and 2 N's. Don't even mention Facebook to me, though. Well, gotta run. So until next time, drive safe and stay out of my way.